Yo, what's up YouTube? It's your boy Will Motivation back with another video, and today is gonna be a little bit different. It's gonna be story time because I saw a comment on one of my videos. Shout out to that particular subscriber. I'll try to put his name on the screen. He asked me to tell a story about my first car that was like a fiasco. My first car that I bought was a Firebird, Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. Like Smokey and the Bandit for all you old guys out there like me. But for those of you guys that don't know who I am and just tuned in to watch this video, my name is Will Motivation. I like to do videos, you know, sharing experiences, owning some of the cars that I own, like that there Lamborghini Huracan, which I can show you guys up close, you know, towards as we go in this video. But I wanted to tell a story of my first car. It is kind of a funny, crazy story. I've owned a lot of cars, and my first car experience was not a good one, man. And it's probably for reasons that you guys might not realize, because it wasn't necessarily the car. The car was, yeah, it was a $500 car, so it wasn't like anything exotic or anything. But let me tell you guys the story. All right, here we go. All right, so when I was let's see, I was probably like 17 years old. I had a job at the local grocery store, which was a Kroger grocery store. For those of you guys that are not in the Midwest or don't have Kroger's where you're at, it's just, you know, a regular grocery store. I worked that job when I was a junior in high school and saved up about $500 or $600. And I was always into cars. I was a car fanatic. Of course, I never thought I would have a car like that, but I loved cars. Of course, I loved Lamborghinis and Ferraris and stuff like that, but at that point in time, that was not necessarily my aspiration. I just like cars. So I wanted to have a car, of course, like any teenager, you know, or most teenagers. I want to say any teenager. So I saved up my little $500 working at the grocery store. And, you know, I was a bagger. And then I worked the cashier, got my little promotion. I was making like $4.25 when I started. And I think I moved up to $4.75 later on. And anyway, I saved up $500. I live with my mom and dad and my brothers and sisters. And that's relevant to this story, believe me. So anyway, got into a little altercation with my dad, because up until that point in time I had to borrow one of his cars if I wanted to drive anywhere, right? And so one day he let me drive to work. I used to walk to work, as a matter of fact. It was probably about a half-mile walk, something like that. But I used to walk to work, but he let me drive one day because I got off real late. It was like after midnight when I got off of work, and I gave some coworkers a ride home after midnight. I was 17 years old, and the police pulled me over because I was in the wrong neighborhood. They didn't really like the looks of that, and they pulled me over and they put me in jail because it was after curfew. My dad had to come and get me out of jail. I was driving his car. He wasn't happy with me, and so, you know, he was upset. So I was like, you know, I'm just gonna get my own car. I got my little $500. So I decided to go ahead, take my $500 and buy my first car. So I had like the little magazines. Back then there wasn't no internet, so I wasn't online, but there was an Auto Trader magazine, and I found a sports car. I found a two-door 1978 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. So a Trans Am, it had the nice engine in it. So let's walk around so I can give you something to look at. So they had a Trans Am, Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. It was a gold colored Trans Am, and it was not too far from my house. So I was like, you know what, I want to go check out this car. I got the $500, I can afford it. And he might have been asking $600 for the car. Maybe I negotiated him to $500. But went and checked out the car. The car looked like a $500 car. It was like, you know, some rust here and there. It was kind of rough, but it ran good. It had the 400 engine in it and like a 400 transmission, or a 350 engine and a 400 transmission, something like that. Might even had a bigger engine than that. But yeah, so found the car, had my little bank account, went to the bank to pull out my money to buy the car. They made me, man, they when I went to go pull the money out of the bank account, they called the manager. We're talking about like $500. They called the manager. It was a big fiasco for me to pull $500 out of the bank. People came out the back. Managers came out the back and were asking what I was going to do with the money and double checking my ID and all this fiasco. I felt real strange. But anyway, got the money out of the bank and proceeded to pay the gentleman for the car. Gave me the keys to the car. Had to wait for the title and all that kind of stuff. But in the meantime, I had the car. Now, I didn't have my dad's permission to buy the car. So my dad was really, he was like, he was active, you know what I'm saying? So I should have probably checked with him first before I did that. And I kind of knew when I talked to him that there might be an issue with me having that car. And so I felt a little guilty about it. So when I got home, instead of parking the car out in the front in the street, like in front of the house, I parked the car in the back of the house in the alley. Like we had like the alleys and stuff right here in the Midwest. Parked the car in the alley in the house and was worried about my dad. Now in the meantime, I had been driving the car around a little bit, and the car started to have some issues already, like within a day or two. And I remember I had to use a telephone cable to wire the door of the car shut, to keep it shut, because the latch rusted out and the door wouldn't stay closed. So I had a phone cable wrapped around the door handle in my seat to keep the car door closed. So it was a little bit of it was a $500 car. What do you expect? So anyway, long story short, I saw my dad. We were talking in the kitchen. I was like, hey, I bought a car. You want to see it? And my dad was like, what? And he was like, where is it? And he was upset when I said that. I was like, I parked it out in the back in the garage because I got to fix a couple things on it. He didn't say anything to me. He just left, went outside to the backyard, to the alley. The car was sitting back there. He looked at it. He came back in the house. He said, we're taking that car back. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't know if we can do that. He said, we're taking the car back. Where'd you get it from? Asked me a few questions. I was in trouble at that point. 17 years old. Bought a car. My dad was upset. And guess what? We did take it back. So it was a fiasco. We went to the guy's job. Like, I had to call the guy and apologize. Say, hey, my dad doesn't want me to have the car. So I gotta give it back to you. And the guy was like, I already spent the money. I bought some stereo equipment and stuff like that. And the car is sold. And I'm like, I know, I don't want to give it. I don't want to have to turn it back into you. And he was, so I kind of was like, I'm sorry, but my dad, and my dad is like this known person in the city. My dad was a politician. A lot of people knew him. In my city, so my dad was not having that, right? My dad wasn't taking no for an answer. So my dad was like, okay, we're going to the guy's job, and we're gonna give him the car back. Went to the dude's job. The guy, that guy was on his lunch break. We were waiting for him. The guy came back from his lunch break. My dad was sitting there waiting for him, and my dad went into the guy's job, asking for the guy. And I felt bad about this because I'm like, this is all my fault. This dude sold me the car. He really doesn't really have to give me my money back and that kind of thing. So my dad just wasn't having it. So we wait for the guy at his job. When we went inside the place of his job, it was like a bank branch or something like that, or a loan office or something. The people that worked there, they saw my dad come in. They saw my dad was upset, and they recognized my dad. They knew who he was, and they were like, "Oh, shoot! Like, this is not gonna be good. So this guy better handle that." So we went outside. The guy came back from his lunch break. My dad said, "Hey, you gotta give my son his money back. I didn't want him to buy this car, blah blah blah." And the guy's like, you know, no, I already spent the money and this, that, and the other. And the guy, to the guy's credit, like I didn't really think the guy was wrong, but my dad just wasn't having that. My dad got upset. My dad went up to the guys like, you're gonna like give him this money back, like, and the guy was backing up, you know. It was like a crazy situation. And so of course I'm black, my dad is black, the guy I bought the car off of, it's a white guy, you know. How is that relevant to the story? Well, then the police showed up and the fire person, like a fire marshal or somebody came around. It was like a scene was starting to build up, because like my dad was like getting upset and telling the guy, and they were kind of like lightweight arguing. And then the police showed up. They come into the situation. They're like, what's going on here? And there was a fireman there, right? So the police officer said, okay, what's going on here? He asked the fireman. The fireman said, well, you know, they started arguing and the guy here is yelling at the other guy, and then he pushed him. And then my dad was like, hold on, wait, I didn't touch him, I didn't push him. And everybody was saying, no, he didn't touch him or push him. So the fire guy just lied on my dad and said my dad like got physical with the dude. And then the police officer put me and my dad in the back of his police car, and we had to sit there for a while and talk to the police officer, basically sent us home. And a day or two later, the guy called me and said, here, I'm gonna give you your money back. You can just bring the car back. And I apologized to the guy, but I had to give my very first car that I bought with my own money, I had to give it back to the guy I bought it off of. And it created sort of a situation for me, like in my mind and my situation, like how I was looking at the situation, because I don't think the guy was wrong. My dad was trying to look out for me, and my dad had a fear that if I had a car, that I would either kill myself driving crazy, or that I would drop out of school and stop paying attention to my studies. And maybe he thought that car wasn't the right car for me and all of that, because my dad had his own reasons for thinking that, right? But I had this thing in my head where it was like, one day, I don't care what, but I'm gonna be able to get whatever car I want when I want, and nobody's gonna be able to tell me, no, you can't have that car. And that was like the seed that created this drive in me as well, to where if I want something, and when I say I'm gonna be able to get it, I'm gonna be able to get it, and there's not gonna be anybody that says no or stops me or any of that. So I guess it built some independence in me, which was a good thing. But yeah, that was some drama, man. That was a traumatic experience for me. I felt bad for the guy. I had to apologize to him. You know, I felt bad for, you know, my dad being upset with me. And I was just like, never again, you know what I'm saying? So next thing you know, hey, I go to college, I get my degree, I come out, I start making decent money, and I start buying whatever car I wanted that I could afford. And that has continued on today to where we are now with this Lamborghini Huracan. So if you ever have any situation stories like that, drop me a comment, you know, in the comments here, and you guys want to hear some other stories, man, maybe I'll do a video talking about all of the cars I've ever owned in my life, because I own a lot of different cars in my life, man, a lot. So y'all just drop me a comment, let me know what y'all want to see on this channel, and yeah, I'll holler back.
It's the one and only Floyd Money Mayweather. I'm here to tell you guys to go to Wheel Motivation. The exotic cars is crazy. I've been watching this show for a little while now, and it's growing. But we need everybody else to subscribe to Wheel Motivation and support Will. I'm supporting them. You do the same.